everyone. Welcome back to Susan Dawn Ascension Connections. Welcome to a brand new sacred channeling. Okay, as I had previously channeled in whichever was the previous channeling, we're going to be doing a couple of foundational videos. I'm going to set the stage for some guidance, teachings, more insight going forward. I've been keeping a book of channelings now, insight and guidance that I've been receiving. When I say guidance, I mean new teachings, new understandings. I've been challenging my perceptions of spirituality, things I were taught. And so this might challenge you as well, which is a good thing. That's a great thing for expansion and for open-mindedness and all of that. So this specific reading was starting to come forth in, I think it was the Lion and the Lamb channeling. We were talking about the Garden of Eden. We were talking about the Adam and Eve and the masculine and feminine energy. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to kind of I'm going to go through some of these notes that I had taken, some of these downloads I had received and insights I had received, and channel a little bit deeper, channel a little bit more. I'm going to do my very best. It's a little bit overwhelming for me. Because even now myself, because this is even challenging my own perception, this is even challenging my own learning and teachings of what I've been brought up with, especially I was brought up Catholic. And so this even challenges myself, but through this journey, I've really learned how to surrender and really learned how to open up and just allow myself to receive. And I encourage you guys to do the same. Take what resonates for you. If it resonates as truth within yourself, even just like nugget of truth, allow yourself to accept it, allow yourself to receive it, allow yourself to sit with it. If it does not resonate with you, allow yourself to disregard it. Everybody's path is going to be a little bit different. Everybody's perception is going to be a little bit different. Everybody's truth is going to be a little bit different. It's all based on, your experiences and how you're receiving and what you receive. It does not have to be true for you. If you want to share your experiences, your insights, your thoughts, I always encourage respectful discourse. However, I want to be very clear that I will only allow and accept respectful debate and discourse. If there is harassment, if there is disrespect, if there is belittling, your comment or your emails will be either deleted or ignored. Because I'm just not accepting that. That's a firm boundary that I have. I'm just not accepting that. I let that sway me. I let that create doubt in me for a while there. And I know the work that I'm meant to be doing, and I know that this is coming from positive intentions. Again, you do not have to take this as your truth. My job is just to present what it is that I receive in the best way that I know how. So that being said, I really do encourage you guys to share your thoughts, share your experiences, share your insight. Again, this definitely challenged me. It might challenge you, but allow yourself just to sit with that or go deeper with it. And this is just going to be a foundation for going further and going deeper into channelings and into new understandings and new perspectives. I did pull some cards. I don't know if we're going to get to them. I just kind of wanted to see what the overall theme might be for this reading. But what we're going to do is we're going to go into the information that I had channeled and received. So the first thing is I'm calling this, I don't know what I'm calling this, either into the garden or out of the garden, because I'm getting both metaphors. We've talked about the Garden of Eden. Again, I think it was in the Lion and the Lamb channeling where we talked about the Garden of Eden as representative of connection to God. And how Adam and Eve, when they exited the Eden, when they ate from the apple from the tree of knowledge, and they bit into the apple and they were kicked out of the garden, how that is representative of our fallen consciousness. And what is a fallen consciousness? A fallen consciousness is separation energy. It's that disconnect between you and God. And that's essentially what that is. But what they really want to do is explore what exactly that Eden energy is and why were we kicked out of the Garden of Eden? Why did God allow for that to happen? Remember too that the context of this, we are looking at it from an ascension journey. We are looking at it from a soul's perspective. We are not looking at this in the context of the Bible. We are not looking at this in context of dogma or religion. We are looking at this with a wider lens. So that being said, the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve can be representative of divine masculine and divine feminine, of course. And divine masculine and divine feminine, in that union of oneness, in that energy of connection with God, there is a higher level of consciousness and a higher level of connection, wherein they felt no shame, they felt no guilt, they felt no fear. There was love, there was unity, and there was connection with God. I don't know if you guys can hear the wind. It really picked up out there, which is really this powerful, powerful energy. I keep getting messages with regards to trees and the roots of the trees and how they bury into the ground, and even the roots of trees, they have a system in which they communicate with each other, but that the roots of trees is essentially our connection to God that can never be swayed, that we can never truly be separate. So even though we were kicked out of the garden, even though we stepped out of the garden and fell in consciousness, what was that for? Well, what came through was that it was to understand duality. It was to transcend duality, that we had to experience that fall in consciousness in order to understand our true connection and oneness with God and with the world around us. And to remember that through generations to come, what they're doing is they're bringing me through lineage. They're bringing me through many timelines and many lifetimes to bring us back to our connection to God, to bring us back home to ourselves. And home is within our connection to God. But we had to remember that. I've gotten a lot of metaphors, and this one they're bringing through. I recently finished watching The Good Place, and I talked about that in one of the readings on my main channel, Susan Dawn Spiritual Connections. The Good Place is a comedy drama starring Ted Danson and Kristen Bell, where there's 4 humans that go to the afterlife, and they're kind of crappy human beings. They didn't embody their best selves. They weren't the best versions of themselves when they were alive. So they go to what Ted Danson and his character Michael calls the good place. Spoiler alert, because they're not the best human beings, it's actually the bad place, but they want to get to the good place, and so they go on a journey of becoming better versions of themselves. One of the main characters teaches moral philosophy and helps them to understand themselves and their motivations better, and they end up getting to the actual good place, where they meet a character such as Hypatia of Alexandria, genius, from ancient Greece, genius, but in the good place, she forgets mathematics. And the trouble of the good place is that eternity stretches into eternity. Time stretches into eternity. And so it's like you have everything that you desire. Oh my gosh, we just lost power. I'm going to keep going. Okay. There's got to be a metaphor here. So time stretches and there's no motivation. You have everything that you desire. Everything is perfect. And within that perfection, you lose yourself, because there is no motivation to get better. There's no motivation for an ending. It just keeps going and going and going. And so she forgot herself. Her brain, she said, became mush. She forgot what math was. And it's that kind of metaphor. When you're in the garden, when you're in perfection, you have that connection to God, yes, but you don't have that contrast for what is your connection to God? What does that mean? And we talk about this in the context of twin flames, how when you expand as a soul, the universe and God expands as well. But if you're not expanding, if you're kind of stuck, then the universe doesn't expand. So the next metaphor that they brought to me was Plato's allegory of the cave, where the world inside the cave and the world outside of the cave are very, very different. But if you're stuck inside the cave, you don't recognize that, because you're stuck essentially in your comfort zone. You don't know what resides outside of yourself. In fact, you might even be fearful of what it is that's outside of yourself. You have a very limited perspective. But when you actually allow yourself to step outside, when you allow yourself to step out of the cave, when you allow yourself to step out of your comfort zone, the world opens up and the world expands. You expand. That's what transcending duality is about. It's understanding it's not black and white. It's not either or. It's not left or right. There's a middle path. There's a middle ground. It's all about that expansion. And sometimes we have to go through those lessons and those experiences, that contrast, experience the contrast in order to fully understand what it is that we're experiencing. If in terms of manifestation, sometimes you have to go through the contrast of what it is that you don't want in order to fully embrace and understand or narrow down, become more specific about what it is that you do want. So Plato's cave is a metaphor, or the Garden of Eden can be a metaphor for Plato's cave. Plato's cave can be a metaphor for the Garden of Eden, where it's like you're stuck in this paradise. And I don't mean to say the word stuck, but you're stuck in this paradise because you don't know any better. You don't know. You're connected to God, but you don't know what it's like to not be connected to God. And if you don't know what it's not to be connected to God, if you don't understand that separation, if you don't understand that dual-link perspective, then you'll never understand that you're never separate from God, that you are always connected to God. Sometimes you have to experience the disconnect. Let me put it this way. There's the illusion of separation, but you are never separate. It's just the illusion. And we experience this fallen consciousness, this separation from God, in order to understand fully how grounded our connection is, how rooted our connection is, that we are a part of God. Because otherwise, you won't understand that within yourself, or many of us as humans, we don't understand that within ourselves. We see God as something outside of ourselves. Jesus came here in physical incarnation to teach us that heaven is not an external place. It's not something outside of ourselves. It's something that we reach within. They shared to me the phrase, the garden of the heart, and how we have to move out of the physical and into the heart. They said, this is meditation. This is your higher heart ascension. It's understanding that the kingdom of heaven is not a physical place where God sits on the throne. It's remembering that you are part of God, that God is part of you, and that kingdom of heaven is within you. It's within your heart space. It's within you, and you reach that through meditation. You reach that through connecting with yourself and quieting the outside world, by allowing yourself to go deep within in connection with yourself. That's why we always say to know thyself. The more that you know yourself, the more that you connect fully with yourself. They're bringing me the metaphor now about the lights going off and how the power went out, and how sometimes you have to be in the darkness in order to understand what the light is. This is what we do in shadow work. Shadow work is not just the darkest parts of ourselves. Yes, we have to face our fears, and yes, we have to face our flaws, and yes, we have to face our mistakes and hold ourselves accountable in order to course correct. Yes, we have to look at the darkest parts of ourselves, but we look at the darkest parts of ourselves to allow ourselves to see where there is light. Part of your shadow work is also understanding the light of yourself, the love of yourself, and claiming that, owning that, knowing that you are beautiful, knowing that you are special, knowing that you are part of God, knowing that you're not separate. So it's this feels big. So Adam and Eve, being representative of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, experiencing that separation, or to understand what that union is, experiencing separation as an illusion, and understanding that you're always in union. You're always in union within yourself. You're always in union with your counterpart. You're always in union with God. And if you're not on that sacred union path of ascension with a partner, with a divine masculine or a divine feminine, then this is just within yourself. Understanding that God is always part of you. It's just sometimes we have to understand the contrast and understand that duality in order to transcend that duality. A phrase that I had shared was, if all is God and God is all, then God is omniscient and all is part of the whole. So if all is God and God is whole, or God is all and God is omniscient, then was it really kicking us out of the garden? Was it really disconnecting from God? Or were we always connected to God? We just fed into the illusion of separation. We experience the illusion of separation so that we can understand what our connection really means and how connected we always are. I channeled a phrase many, many years ago that I shared, I think, in a sacred channeling here. You're never so lost that you can't be found. You're never so lost. You're never so separate. You're never so disconnected. You're always connected. You're always in union. It's just that illusion. It's just the perception that has to shift. Okay, so the next thing is, many years ago, I channeled, I had a vision. It wasn't channeled, it was a vision where I was descending into the underworld. It was not the most pleasant experience, but I understand why I had this experience. So I was acting as a witness, acting as an observer, where I was stepped back, and I saw a being descending, a fallen angel descending into the underworld. And he landed on a rock within a cavern. And all of a sudden I saw all the fire and all the brimstone and all the fear that's projected from this world and society and religion that's been projected onto this energy fade away. And all was left was a man, huddled, naked, vulnerable on a rock. Huddled, he was like this, he was bent like that, in like the fetal position is what it is. And I saw that all he was a man. All he was feeling that disconnect and that separation from God. And it was essentially the devil energy, the devil archetype, I guess you could say, the Lucifer archetype. But without the fire and the brimstone that's been fed and projected, all it was the separation energy, the illusion of separation. And so what is that fallen consciousness? What is that separation energy? What is that archetype? That archetype is just the forgotten divinity within yourself. You forget your divinity within yourself. That's all that is. Where you feel separation, it's that you forgot your divinity. You forgot your connection to God's source. You forgot that God's source is part of you, is always part of you. That's where you feel lost. That's where you feel abandoned. That's where you feel rejected. That's where you feel neglected. That's where you feel separate. I did a channeling over on Susan Dawn Spiritual Connections, part of our healing and harmony series about separation and how we have all these wounds as humans. But what it comes down to is a core wound of separation from God. So we might feel betrayed, we might feel rejected, we might feel neglected, we might feel abandoned in so many different experiences with regards to relationships or family dynamics or beliefs or experiences that we have within our physical world, within our physical form, within our human being. But what it comes down to, there's a root experience. And what it comes down to is the belief that you're separate from yourself. What it comes down to is the belief that you're separate from God. And when you feel separate from God, you feel separate from the world. When in truth, we're all unified. When in truth, we're all part of that same tapestry of creation. When in truth, we're all part of God. Unique threads, unique expressions of God. That's what makes us beautiful. We're not robots or automatons. That's what makes us beautiful. We're unique expressions of God's source. But we can't negate or forget that we're connected to God's source. We stepped out of the garden in order to experience that separation so that we can understand that there is no separation, so that we could fully understand and remember that the kingdom is within us. We're stepping out of the physical garden of Eden. We stepped out of that, or we were kicked out of that, or however you want to put it. We stepped out of that physical garden, but God, if all is God and God is all, that God is part of us, that garden is part of us, it's within us. And so wherever we go, we carry that garden within us, the garden of the heart. It's all about shifting your perspective. It's all about understanding that you're not separate, that you're always connected, and you carry that Eden, that kingdom of heaven, that template of Christ consciousness, of higher consciousness, of God consciousness within you, because you are part of God. Okay. I thought we might channel with some of these cards, but these are just, I'll show you guys what we have, what I had pulled. These are just confirmation of everything we had channeled. We have tethered and caged, break free. This is what you were doing, breaking free from the illusions within yourself. We have Jesus and Mary Magdalene, the sacred mission. This is that masculine and feminine energy, that Christ-Sophia consciousness, that oneness, that union. And we have faith, find holiness within. Where do you find it? God never turns away from you. Jesus never turns away from you. You never turn away from you. It's all found within. That's where you find your faith. We also have the saint and the sinner, which is that dueling perspective. It's not about black or white. It's transcending black and white and understanding there is that middle path. There's always that middle path. That's where you have to shift in your perception. And that's where you have to allow yourself to surrender old beliefs, old templates, old paradigms, old understandings, and allow yourself to feel into the truth of your connection with God. All right, we're going to end here, and we're going to be back with more channelings. Again, this was just a foundation. We're going to come back with more channelings to come. One final message. The wind has calmed down, and they're bringing through the word tempest for me, and they're saying when you feel the strong winds of a storm within you, this could be a dark night of the soul, this could be a crisis of faith, and that's when you find that peace in your center. The lights just went on, you see that? And that's when you find that peace within you. That's when you find the calm in your center. That's when you find God within yourself, because God itself is unwavering. God is always within you. So tune into that higher heart. Tune into the garden of the heart. Tune into the garden within. That is your Eden. That is your kingdom of heaven. That is your connectedness to yourself and to God as one. All right, I'm sending you all so much love and so much light, and we'll see you next time.